Silicon Valley Bank bailout is proof of a failed system. And some folks don't like when I say things like that. They want to call me the big S and all of that good stuff. You know who I'm talking about. I know you're listening right now. But anyhow, the reality is I just believe in having a fair, equitable system for us all. We shouldn't have specials for some and others having to go through other things. Anyway, another big bailout, and it is a bailout. Even if it's the FDIC that's covering it, it's a bailout. The FDIC was designed to cover up to $250,000 in anybody's bank account. Punto y final. However, because we have a lot of rich people in the Silicon Valley Bank with millions of dollars, they will be covered as well by the FDIC, something that originally the charter wasn't set to do except in severe extenuating circumstances. And why is that an extenuating circumstance? I guess because it's a big bank that we could like to say too big to fail. If it's too big to fail, it should fail and then made smaller, shouldn't it? Anyhow, the geniuses who run our economy, the titans of finance, do what they do best. They gamble our money. The stock market, don't believe what you see on the stock market. I know folks like to believe in EBITDA and all those fancy numbers that they give you and the fancy formulas. It's all a fake from these curves like the Joker curve, I called it. All these things are not true. They are just there to make people make money off of money. They sneer at regulation that protect the taxpayer from their ineptitude and fall libertarian stance. Oh, they're libertarian until they need a bailout. They ultimately fail because our private finance sector is nothing but a deck of cards that ultimately fails and falls. And then they beg for a bailout. They beg for a bailout. One must remember that Silicon Valley Bank lobbied Congress to remove banks of around their size from the type of stress testing major banks must go through. Trump signed the law. Now the bank has failed after making investments that are expected of these titans of finance. We must remember that our financial sector is a gambling casino largely devoid of intellect. These guys, I call them the thugs in ties. Newsweek reported on the debacle at in. While largely unknown outside California's Silicon Valley tech corridor, SVB has for decades been a go-to financial institution for the country's technology and health startups. One of the 20 biggest banks in the United States, it had over $200 billion in assets by the end of last year, according to CNN. As of Friday, however, SVB was left in free fall as clients began a run on the institution, spurred on by higher interest rates and other factors, resulting in a spiraling chain reacting that has threatened to sink the institution and leave its customers in financial jeopardy. In the fallout on Friday's run on the bank, some reports noted that a rollback of banking regulations by former President Donald Trump might have weakened SVB's ability to manage risks associated with the interest rates. In 2018, according to the New York Times, Trump signed a bill that axed regulatory requirements for regional banks with less than $200 billion. Guess what? SVB had $200 billion and growing, and they were going to stay at 249.999. Under the new rules, such institutions no longer had to submit to stress testing by the Federal Reserve and were no longer required to keep a certain amount of cash on hand to protect against the effects of financial shocks, the newspaper reported. In fallout on Friday's run on the bank, some reports noted that a rollback of banking regulations by former President Donald Trump might have weakened SVB's ability to manage risk associated with interest rates. In 2018, according to the New York Times, Trump signed a bill that axed regulatory requirements for regional banks with less than $250,000 in assets. You ever heard the word neoliberal? All the neoliberal voted for that. They got 60 votes in the Senate to get that passed. Neoliberalism kills. It hurts the average American citizen. If you want to understand the callousness and disregard of these executives, and you don't hear this on MSNBC, CBS in the form that we talk about it here because they make it just seem placé. But when you're starving, it's not placé. All those people that I saw under that bridge when I was coming into to KPFT, it's not placé for them. Note that on Friday, the day of the bank's collapse, the day that these guys knew they were crashing the system, that they screwed up, they all got bonuses. They all got bonuses. These crooks knew their bank was in trouble. Why is anybody getting a bonus? They should at least freeze it till we find out what went wrong, right? That's what they always talk to us about. Moral hazard. Moral hazard. The government came to the rescue of millionaires and billionaires' deposits, but they cannot fight to rescue those fraught with $10,000 of student debt that these clowns, all these bankers, have placed on these guys, right? Will the middle class, who are constantly ripped off by these thugs in ties, continue to twist their minds in pretzels to defend these guys as they continue to sell Americans a false dream? We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.